Hello, and welcome to FTT Chats, where we sit down with some of the great and the good of FinTech for a bit of a chat. I'm Liz Lumley, and today I'm speaking to Tomer Guriel of ezbob. Hello, how are you?
Hi, Liz. Thank you for having me. And I'm very excited, super excited about our chat today.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. I'm sitting here in a very snowy London, and I know you're in the Mediterranean splendor of Tel Aviv, so I'm extremely jealous of where you are in the world right at the moment. So I'm going to start
Indeed.
with our first question. Our first question that we introduce people to our community with, and that is, Tomer, who are you and what do you do?
So, my name is Tomer Guriel. I'm the founder and CEO of ezbob. ezbob, in a very high level, is a SaaS digital lending platform. Our main specialty is on the front end, where we actually support the lead origination, the onboarding, and the instant decisioning. Myself, I'm an ex JP Morgan investor banker, so lending is in my blood. This is actually when I start understanding the difficulties about SME lendings. The main kind of issues that banks traditionally had to deal with SMEs were related more about the lengthy of time that it took them to process an application, make the decision, and eventually to issue that. That kind of process was also very expensive. According to Accenture in the UK, it costs £3,000 to issue a business loan end to end. And also the lack of data. This is exactly where ezbob comes in. And with our solution, the smart onboarding, we're able throughout the onboarding process to gather rich data from over 40 different data sources that related to regulatory, fraud, business and personal information that with the machine learning capability, we're able to make a real-time decisioning. Good example for what we are doing is actually one of our client, Metrobank. And Metrobank, we launched in the mid of last year the BBLS services for their customers. Results, 94% of the application done fully digitally. 94% have been approved, and over 90% of the application were approved and activated in less than 5 minutes. That's actually allowed Metro to scale the business and to provide access to a capital of more than 1.3 billion pounds to their needed SMEs. And therefore, that shows the value of ezbob, providing the banks with a solution that allows them to scale the business and to grow the amount of lending, and also to reduce the cost to a fractional cost that they used to have. And at the same time, use rich data to make sort of like smarter and better decisioning.
No, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that. I mean, you yourself and Metrobank are going to be speaking a lot more on this topic at our upcoming Lending 3.0 event, and I'm glad you went into some sort of a example in detail. But I want to talk a little bit about, unfortunately, COVID and the pandemic and the relationship between banks and SMEs. So I read an interview with you where you talked about that almost the pandemic has offered up an opportunity to have a different relationship or a more special, closer relationship between banks and SMEs. What kind of opportunities does this special relationship offer? What do we hope to see from this?
So I think that post and actually also during the pandemic, banks suddenly saw that they have a large increase in the SME business as a result of the support of the governments. Now, the question is that what are they going to do with that? And this is a great opportunity for them. On one hand, I see there is still a great opportunity on supporting the lending because pre-COVID, the average SME loans in the UK was around 60, 70K. In reality, the BBLS program provided around 30K. So you still have a gap to be complete for most of the SMEs, especially those that have been resilient for the COVID and moved into the online to actually fill that gap. On the other hand, you have also the to cater and to enhance the relationship by offering multiple products. So it's not only more term loans that can be line of credit, can be credit cards, can be saving accounts. And for both of these opportunities, the banks will need an enhanced technology to support it and a digital kind of process. And this is exactly where ezbob comes in with a solution like our smart onboarding, where we offer throughout our onboarding a support for multiple products. So you can design your own kind of flow and the own kind of richness of data that you need to support the various kind of product in order to enhance these kind of services.
I mean, sort of the industry has been talking about improving the service to SMEs and improving that relationship for so long. It's almost like you could say one of the silver linings of the pandemic, that it's kind of accelerated that process, don't you think?
Absolutely. So the way we saw, one of our first customers is ESME by NatWest. They were actually the first one that actually started the trend of digitalization and moving the SME lending into a full digital journey. I think post-COVID, this kind of trend is becoming so more a necessity than a trend. So what we see today and what I expect to see, that in the next 2 to 5 years, the journey, the SME lending journey will become digital. Obviously, with ezbob solution, we offer it today. And with the ability of being digital, there's a lot of pricks and values coming with that. So with ezbob, the fact that we're using 40 different data sources that touch on the regulatory side, AML, KYC, on the fraud side, on the authentication side, on the personal business data side, and on sort of like a verification side, this is allow you with using machine learning and AI to make smarter and better decision, and to actually offer the multiple product that is needed today in the market for your customers. In addition, this also create another kind of issues that banks needs to deal with, which is dealing with multi-channels. So suddenly moving from the physical world of engaging with the customers, and I'm moving into a remote channeling, such as POS, such as price comparison sites, etc. The banks would need to have a ways to support that in order to create a unique in the look and feel, the unique in the flow, and the unique in the offering that they're offering, and they would need to have to support it like the ezbob technology. I give you some stats. The recent research by Salant indicate that first of all, 97% of the banks actually looking on the enhanced sort of like front-end self-service elements going forward in the next few years. 70% of the banks claims that they're going to invest equally or more than what they invest in 2020. 77% of them claim that this year they will invest predominantly on the onboarding side. So what you're realizing is that the onboarding and the decision becoming the most prominent element for the banks in order to build that kind of relationship with the bank that it exists today with the ezbob solution.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that kind of leads me into my next question. I mean, you know, I also a quote from an interview you gave where, and I've heard many other people speak about this, that customers are demanding an experience with their bank and financial services provider similar to the experiences they have with Netflix and with Amazon and with more consumer-facing technology experiences, and that sometimes it seems to me like a rather ambitious goal. Are we asking too much from our banking experience, that it be like Netflix or Amazon, or do you think it's possible?
First of all, it's possible, and we don't ask too much, because I think that, you know, at the end of the day, you know, customer expect to get the same service everywhere the same, whether or not it's acquiring a financial product or acquiring some entertainment product. I think, and the fact that today you have existing solution to support it also doesn't make it, you know, to be sort of like a daring kind of request from the customers. I think, again, and I'm repeating it, is that not only that they're going to get the journey, the customer journey that they expect to see, such as in Netflix and the rest, there's also a great gain from the bank's point of view. The amount of data and how much you can learn about your customers in order to provide them a much more kind of customized and a much more a much more relevant product is a great value for the banks. And also the fact that this amount of data and the ability to provide multiple products also going to reduce the cost of acquisition for the banks. So the banks actually benefit from a lot of things, providing those digital journeys to the customers. So it's a win-win situation both for the to ask for that and for the banks to grant that in terms of the cost saving, the ability to scale your business and be smarter about your customer.
I mean, also, you know, keeping down that line, we've seen a lot of talk about next generation lending, about having decisions made in a much shorter time frame. You know, almost having those decisions made on the spot. And you've said that probably about 80% of lending decisions should be made on the spot. You know, how soon before we get to that percentage?
The way I see it, it's here, and because we're offering it. So if the availability of this solution exists with ezbob, we can provide the 89% exactly with the same example that I mentioned about Metrobank. So the solution exists. The question is that how quickly the banks can move into offering this solution. My gut feeling, it will take between now and maximum 5 years. And to be honest, those who are not going to adapt less than that, 2 to 3 years, will have difficulties to survive in the current market. As I said, technology, it's a necessity. It's not anymore the digitalization of the banks is a necessity. It's not anymore sort of like a trend and a migration kind of process. I mean, COVID actually accelerated that. And I mean, depends on how COVID will fall, whether or not we'll see the end of the tunnel or it's something to stay. I mean, in both cases, you need to have this technology to cater remotely with your customers and provide them better services.
Yeah. Excellent. So I know we could have a lot longer conversation about lending, but we're coming to the end of our chat, and we like to give a bit of a fun question to end up our conversation. So I'm going to give you a magic wand or a crystal ball for your power. I want to ask you, if you had a magic wand to grant a fintech wish for the industry, what wish would you grant?
To be honest, going back to normality. So I think that what I would wish is to all of us to go back to the things that we love to do before that. You know, to see our grandparents meeting the grandchildren, to see our kids going to play dates without worrying about it, going back to travel, both for leisure and for business, seeing the entire kind of entertainment, going to watch a film, you know, in the cinema. It's something that personally I miss a lot, you know, these things. I think going back to normality and really doing the things that we love to do and really look more optimistic about the future. I think there's a lot of sadness, I mean, these days. And I think if we can bring back the goodness and the goodness in humanity, which is all of us together, doing a lot of things, I think that would be great. You know, stop with this social distancing, being able to do the things that we did in the past.
Excellent. Yeah, a wish to come back to normal life. I think a lot of people would agree with you and want that wish to happen. Tomer, thank you so much for sitting down with me for our FTT chat.
Thank you very much, Liz.